All right. Welcome to the Pro Football's first 50 years, where we bring the past back to life. Now, you can go on the internet, and especially the first 50 years, 1920 to 1970. Now, of course, 1920, 21, it was called the American Professional Football Association. It wasn't called the NFL until 1922. But in the first 50 years, you can go online and look up and find, box scores, what the score was, and as the years go on, there's more and more information added on, like maybe how many rushing yards a certain team had, maybe how many first downs they got, how many passing yards. And you go back in time, we're going to talk about today, 1930, right? You can find, maybe who scored a certain touchdown or who scored this touchdown, of course, who won the football game, where the game was played at, maybe how many people attended. But exactly what happened during the football game? Well, that's what we try to do here. Now, with the help of newspaper articles, we get to take a little deeper dive, shall we, if you say, into each and every football game in the first 50 years. So now, if just a little heads up here, there's no fancy videos here, nothing like that, or anything to keep you occupied, right? All it is you, me, for the next 30 to 60 minutes, all right? So if that's all right with you, let's get it on, all right? So today's game, back to 1930, going back in time. At the Chicago Cardinals at the Green Bay Packers at City Stadium in Green Bay, Wisconsin. This is the first game between, actually not first game between, but it's the first game of the season for both these teams. Each of these teams previously played an exhibition game. Now, yesterday I did the exhibition game that the Packers played. The Oshkosh All-Stars. Oh, yeah, that powerhouse. The Oshkosh All-Stars played the Green Bay Packers at City Stadium. Didn't turn out too well for the Oshkosh All-Stars. They lost 46-0. The Green Bay Packers were a phenomenal team this year. And this year would be the second in the Packers would be three-peating. So this is the second season they would wind up winning the championship this year. They would just eke out the New York Giants by percentage points, because before 1933, there was no championship games. There was a championship game played in 32, but that was not so much by design. Usually it's whoever winds up winning has the best winning percentage overall winds up winning. Well, so there wound up being a tie between the two teams in 1932, and that's why there was a championship game. But anyway, 1929, 30, 31, the Green Bay Packers were the first three-peat in NFL history. Not to be confused with the 22, 23, and 24 Bulldogs, the 22 Canton Bulldogs, the 23 Canton Bulldogs, and the 24 Cleveland Bulldogs. Basically, although the Cleveland Bulldogs in 1924, kind of about almost half the roster, but basically was the Canton Bulldogs from the year before, but that's another story for another day. But 1929, 30, 31 was the first three-peat in NFL history. So the Packers were a very, very good team. Both teams, as I said, played a exhibition game the week before, both on Sunday, September 14th. And now this is the opening game of this season here. The Cardinals this year they weren't bad in 1929, if I remember correctly. I think they finished third in the league, so pretty impressive. But this year they were about somewhere around 500. I think they finished. So they were not a very good team in 1930. They did win the championship in 1925, but they were kind of up and down throughout the years early on. Like I said, so this game is going to be played at City Stadium. So let's real fast here. I'll go take a look. Let's see here. Share screen. All right, here we go. Show the Green Bay Packers from. All right, so as you see here, right, their first game of the season was an exhibition game, not it wasn't a preseason exhibition game. Certainly not uncommon back then. As I said, they wound up beating the Oshkosh All-Stars 46-0 at City Stadium in Green Bay, Wisconsin. So we are week one, right? They're playing the Chicago Cardinals, and Spoiler alert, they would wind up winning 14-0. Once again, the game was played in Green Bay, Wisconsin, City Stadium in front of 8,000 fans. The exhibition game that the Green Bay Packers played the week before at City Stadium grew 5,000, attendance figure of 5,000. Now, if we click on the Chicago Cardinals here, we'll show you once they had the same thing. They had the Sturgis Wildcats the week before, Sunday, September 14th, 1930. They beat the Sturgis Wildcats 30-0. They wound up playing in Sturgis, Michigan. It's Spence Field. They didn't even have an attendance figure there. So, and it just goes to show, as I said once again, and this is for their first game of the season playing in Green Bay, right? What did they wind up here? Yeah, say they were 5-6-2, a .455 winning percentage. They were not very good. They wound up in 7th place. Now let me go back here, click on the Green Bay Packers here. Let me expand this. So 1930, they were in first. They won first place, 10-3-1, .769 winning percentage. The New York Giants were 13-4. The New York Giants had a winning percentage of .765. Let me stop sharing my screen here. .765. Packers had .769. Giants .765. So by .004 percentage points, the Green Bay Packers wound up winning the 1930 championship. There was a tie in there. They were 10-3. Had that tie counted in the standings, back then it didn't. Ties didn't start counting in standings till, what was it? I believe 1974. I believe it was. But had that tie counted in the standings, meaning half a win and half a loss, the Packers' winning percentage would have been less than what the Giants would have been, and the Giants would have been declared the champions. But as per the rules, those ties didn't count, so that the Packers, by a slimmest of margins, wound up winning the 1930 NFL championship. This is a very good point here as well. I want to bring something up. Not all, obviously, not all teams obviously were created equal, but also not all teams' coverage, right, of the teams was created equal either. Right. There was no ESPN, obviously, back then. So you just couldn't, pop on ESPN and watch a replay of the game or NFL film or this. Or that, you needed the coverage of the newspaper, the newspapers to help you. Exactly what happened during the game. I mean, I know so-and-so, maybe, this guy scored, that guy scored, but exactly what else happened during the game? Well, a lot of it, had to do with the good coverage of the newspaper articles. And we'll find, as we go along here, the Green Bay, they love their football. That coverage was fantastic, especially if Green Bay wound up having a home game. They, as I'm going to show you here, their article, they have play-by-play. I mean, that didn't happen very often. So, some towns, some teams, had, really good coverage of their football. Other teams, not so much. Chicago, especially with the Cardinals, did not have super spectacular coverage. But Green Bay, a couple teams did. Green Bay was one of them. Their newspapers, especially the Green Bay Press Gazette, this article I'm going to show you, it gives you play-by-play, so you'll know exactly what happened every play of this football game. All right, so it's pretty darn special. So let me, once again, as I did in the other game, let's see, little history here of River City Stadium. All right, do a little Wikipedia here first. Okay, now here this is at City Stadium in 1948. I'm going to show you an older picture from 1931, and you see how nice it is here. It's got the stands are nice and full. I mean, not with people, but nice, decent size of the stands. It was always like a horseshoe here. Right? It's nice and decent. Well, we're going to take another picture. I'll show you another picture from 1931 where it wasn't quite like that. They were adding on to it throughout the years. But so this is the game. This was where it was played at. This game, City Stadium, known as East Stadium from 62 to 2002, is an American football stadium in Green Bay, Wisconsin. The stadium was built in 1925 for use by the Green Bay East High School, located just to the south of the stadium, and the Green Bay Packers of the National Football League. City Stadium was the third home field for the Packers after Hagemeister, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, and Bellevue Park, and remained as such until 1956. During this time, it was expanded from about 5,000 seats to 25,000 seats. 1933, the Packers began splitting their home games between Green Bay and Milwaukee, a practice that lasted until 1994 when they returned to playing all their home games in Green Bay. I always remember that growing up in the 70s and the 80s, Packers would have a home game, but sometimes it was always, I was like, why? Okay, you got a home game, but this home game didn't look like the last home. Why the stadium? Why the stands look different? Well, that's because basically they played like half their games in Milwaukee and the other half were in Green Bay until 1994. Now they all play at Lambeau Field. By the early 1950s, City Stadium was too small and lacked the features expected in modern football stadiums of the time. A bond initiative passed in the city of Green Bay to fund a new stadium for the Packers. After the Packers moved to New City Stadium, later renamed Lambeau Field, for the 1957 season. Old City Stadium was downsized and continued to be used by East Green Bay High School, I'm going to say. In the early 2000s, the facility underwent multiple renovations, including enhancements to the playing field and stands, as well as the installation of features honoring the stadium's history as it related to the Packers. This included a historic marker and sign for the Packers Heritage Trail. Okay. Green Bay Packers were founded in 1919 by Curly Lambeau and George Whitney Calhoun. From 1919 to 1922, they played their games at Hagemeister Park, a recreational area that hosted various sports and outdoor activities. Small wooden bleachers were constructed, with some fans lining the playing field or sitting on their cars to watch the games. After the property was used to build a new Green Bay East High School, the Packers moved to the other side of the East River to Bellevue Park, which had been constructed to house a local baseball team that had also played at Hagemeister. The wood used for the bleachers at Hagemeister was reused to build a grandstand and bleachers at Bellevue. Bellevue Park had its challenges, though. With the field dimensions more conducive to baseball, its location far from town, and poor parking, after 2 seasons at Bellevue in 23 and 24, demand for a dedicated football stadium for the Packers grew. City Stadium was built just north of Green Bay East High School, meaning it was adjacent to the former Hagemeister Park. The stadium was developed for use by Green Bay East High School and Green Bay West High School. But in reality, the stadium was built to support the Packers. And its original capacity, the wooden bleachers fit more than 5,000 fans. It did not have any bathrooms or locker rooms, meaning the Packers had to use adjacent facilities, including the downtown Columbus Club, while the visiting teams usually got dressed at their hotel before coming to the stadium. The Packers played exclusively at City Stadium for their home games until 1933, when they began playing some games in Milwaukee. In 1933, they played one home game at Borchert Field before playing a few home games a year at Wisconsin State Fair Park from 1934 to 1951. In 1952, they played 3 games at Marquette Stadium while awaiting the completion of Milwaukee County Stadium, where they would play until 1994, when the team returned to playing all their home games in Green Bay. In addition to high school games and NFL games, City Stadium also hosted a few St. Norbert Green Knights football games from the 30s to the 50s. All right, during the stadium's earlier years, seating capacities would fluctuate based on expected crowd sizes, with temporary seating built prior to the games. The stadium underwent different improvements and expansions throughout its life. The original wood fence was replaced with a wire and canvas fence in 1927, although a wooden fence returned 8 years later. 1929, a public announcement system with 8 speakers were put in around the field. They were installed around the field. Lighting to allow for high school teams to play night games on Fridays was added in 1935. From 1936 to 1940, City Stadium underwent its most significant enhancements. A locker room for the Packers was built underneath the south stands in 1936, while a year later a new press box, game clock, and fence was added, while the old bleachers were either replaced or significantly repaired. Seating for 5,000 more fans and better toilet facilities were also added. The Packers announced another project the next year to add another 6,500 seats to the stadium by connecting the 2 grandstands, forming a horseshoe shape. This project, which was funded by the Works Progress Administration grant, also added new restrooms, better training areas, and a stage for the Lumberjack Band. 1956 games from City Stadium were televised for the first time, with 3 games airing on CBS. And you just see here, the seating capacity of the stadium peaked at 25,000 during the last season. The playing surface and location were praised, including being routinely voted as the best playing surface in the NFL. However, by the 50s, the facility had become out of date and not in line with the modern football stadiums of the era. Due to the high school and the East River, the site was physically constricted, making an additional expansion of City Stadium difficult. So, after the NFL pressured the Packers into either building a new stadium or moving to Milwaukee, Green Bay voters approved a bond to build a new stadium at a cost of approximately $1 million. So, it lasted for a while, but I mean, as you know, as anything, it's a lot of things get outdated. Is that, just think, back then they didn't even have toilet facilities. Go figure, huh? All right, let's share it a little bit more here. What else we got here about City Stadium? Okay, this is the game from 1931. Right, the first official aerial photograph of Green Bay Stadium by Otto Stiller. The Packers beat the Bears 7-0. So this is basically September 27, 1931. So this was basically a year before the game I'm going to talk about. So if you'll see here an aerial view right here, right? You'll notice in that other picture I showed you had a nice kind of a horseshoe kind of going on here. All the bleachers were all the same depth or width or whatever you want to call them, all the way around. Right, and then there was like one end zone that had just some bleachers at the back of the end zone there, but it was a nice size horseshoe going all the way around. Well, it wasn't the case back in 1930, 31. Right. All right, so I know we got one more here. Share screen. I'll show you a little bit. All right, where are we at here? Okay. Is that it? Nope. There we go. All right, here we go. All right, so this is, once again, see a nice, a little formation of the horseshoe here, and then of course in the stands down here at the one end zone here. There we got here. The horseshoe-shaped stadium was made of wood and originally did not have any toilet facilities. Stood behind East High School and next to East River. The Packers used the school for locker room facilities. But visiting teams often dressed at their hotel, usually the Hotel Northland, before the game rather than use the lockers at East High. The stadium originally seated 6,000, and its capacity was gradually expanded to 25,000. The Packers compiled a record of 88, 41, and 7 at City Stadium, including championships. They had a lot of championships back in the day. 29, 30, 31, 36, where they beat the Boston Redskins. 39, they beat the New York Giants. I believe that was the 27-0 game. And in 1944, they beat the Giants 14-7. However, the City Stadium never hosted an NFL championship game. Of the 4 championship games the Packers played during those years of City Stadium, the teams hosted only one, the 1939 title game, which was played in Milwaukee instead. Yeah, because I remember the 1938, the 38 and 39, the Giants played. The Giants and the Packers played back-to-back championship games. The 1938 game, the Giants would win. I think it was 23-17. They played that at the Polo Grounds in 1939. The Packers were the home team, but they blew the Giants out of the water that year. I believe it was 27-0. So let's see. Although City Stadium was the Packers' official home in 1933, during the worst of the Great Depression, they began to play part of their home schedule in Milwaukee. After holding one contest at Borchard Field in 33, the Packers played 2 or 3 home games each year in Milwaukee, at State Fair Park in West Allis from 34 to 51, and at Marquette Stadium in 52. The games were moved to County Stadium after it opened in 1953. The practice continued through 1994, after which they were again based solely in Green Bay. So that's a little picture. This is, I don't know exactly when this was, but I'm sure it was probably especially looking at the goalposts and all. Certainly was not 1930 or 31 or whatever it was. So, but so those are a few different shots and views and all of that of the stadium. That's where the Green Bay Packers played their game at. So, as I said, this is the first game for each team during the 1930 season. We're going to first go over coverage of this game from the Chicago Tribune, who basically kind of covered the Chicago Cardinals, and the Chicago Bears. But the Green Bay Packers papers did a far better job of covering the individual football games, as we'll see here. So let me share screen here. Let's see if I can pop up the Chicago Tribune game first here. All right. Oh, there we go. All right. We'll share the screen. All right. Here we go. And, of course, during this game was the first game of the season. The Packers raised the flag, their championship flag from the 1929 season, as it says right here. Right? Packers raised pro-grid flag and crushed the Cardinals 14-0. And that's the way it was back then. They could win 10-0, and they'd say they trounced the other team, or they crushed the other team, or annihilated the other team. Nowadays it's kind of all right, man. Okay, if you win 24-10, you won by 14. You didn't crush the other team. You know what I mean? Crushing the other team would be like 31-3 or whatever. 30-0 or something like that. But by a couple of touchdowns, it's you're not exactly crushing the other team, but that was the verbiage that they used back then. All right, so here, right now, this is once again, this is the Chicago Tribune coverage of this game, and it was not a very big article, but I got 2 articles. One's from the Green Bay Press Gazette, and then there's this one, and all the other articles I found were like about a paragraph long, and they all said the same thing. So we follow along here. The Green Bay Packers celebrated the raising of their 1929 National Professional Football League pennant by defeating the Chicago Cardinals 14-0 in the opening game of the league season here today before a crowd of 8,000 people. The first quarter was scoreless, with the Cardinals gaining some ground and holding their own. At the close of the first period, Johnny Blood replaced Engelman at halfback for the Packers and swept around the Cardinals' end for long gains or broke through the line. So you'll see here Wait. They put in Engelman. So one of these guys must have, let's see, Llewellyn or Rugelman must have been Engelman. I don't know. That I don't know. Because it says here, Johnny Blood replaced Engelman at halfback for the Packers. Now, this is the starting lineups. That means that possibly Engelman should have been the start, should have been one of these starters right here. But they got Llewellyn and Rugelman, so I don't know. So you see, there was a lot of substitutes were used in this game. A lot of substitutes. For the Packers, you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. And then with the Packers used a bunch too. Ernie Nevers. Now, apparently Ernie Nevers didn't start this game either. So, but each team used quite a few substitutes. It wasn't always the case. Sometimes a bunch got used, sometimes hardly. Sometimes no substitutes got used. Sometimes the same 11 guys. Maybe not for the 1930 season, but there were times in the past where the 11 guys who started the game played every snap. Sometimes there might only be one substitute throughout the whole game for a team. So it all depends. Let's see. So the Cardinals couldn't get their passing attack organized, and every attempt to gain by this means was smothered. Late in the first quarter, Melinda intercepted a Cardinal pass. Blood swept right end for 30 yards, placing the ball on the Cardinal 42-yard line. Now, when I go over the Green Bay Press Gazette article, we're going to get a much in-depth and detailed of what happened during this game. All right. Let's see. Got to the Cardinal 42-yard line. Llewellyn got through tackle for 20 yards, and Blood and Melinda drove the ball to the 12-yard line as the quarter ended. So I guess this would be the first touchdown. When the second period started, Dunn picked up 2 yards for a first down, and Llewellyn broke through for a touchdown. Dunn's kick from placement was good, and the score was Packers 7, Cardinals nothing. At the opening of the third period, Arnold Herber, Green Bay quarterback, passed 20 yards to Dilwig, who ran 20 yards for the second touchdown. Melinda kicked the goal from placement, making it 14-0. The Cardinals fought desperately in the final period, but Nevers was smothered when he attempted to launch the Cardinals' passing game. Later in the period, he was penalized 15 yards for grounding the ball when tackled in an attempt to pass far back of his line. Belden, Bogsy, I'm not sure how you pronounce it, McDonald, Cassell, Kiesling, and Slater turned in a good day's work for the Cardinals, but they were never able to threaten the Packers' goal. Llewellyn's punting gave the Packers an advantage in the first half of the game. Belden, Boyd, and Nevers punted for the Cardinals. Next Sunday, the Packers will meet the Chicago Bears at City Stadium. See, I mean, there's a lot of what you got. A lot, the Staten Island Stapletons beat the Newark, the Tornadoes, they were called at the time. Let's see what. Was it the Tornadoes or Newark Tornadoes? Yeah. All right. So then you also see, little articles here. The Bears and the Brooklyn Dodgers were nothing, scoreless. Jack McBride, he used to be the fullback for the Giants, was there. You got Harold Red Grange, Bronco Nagurski. So you got little articles. I mean, this is rather typical. Obviously this is a Chicago paper, right? So you got, a nice little article here on the Packers Cardinals game, and then you have a nice little article. The Bears and the Brooklyn Dodgers were scoreless. So you got a little article here on what happened with the Bears. Both teams actually made 15 first downs, which back then was a lot. So, and then this article here is continued on page 23, column 4, which I'm not going to wind up going over. But I'm going to go over an article from the Green Bay Press Gazette, which shows you in depth and detail what happened in this one. Another thing is that the Cardinals got, obviously every team got covered by the newspapers and all, but the Cardinals never really, or not, I don't want to say never, but the Bears, they were the ones that drew the interest. Even in 1925, when the Cardinals wound up winning the championship that year. They didn't deserve the win, but they wound up winning the championship. That's another story for another day. A lot of the coverage that they got through the newspapers was not very good. The Chicago Bears got some pretty good coverage from the newspapers, especially when Harold Red Grange joined the Bears. His first game ever was November 26, 1925. The Chicago Bears and the Chicago Cardinals played on Thanksgiving. They played to a 0-0 tie. But the Bears got some pretty good coverage through the newspapers. The Cardinals, not so much. Not so much. So let me go now, okay, and I'll show you, an article from the Green Bay. It was on 2 different pages. Good coverage. Let's see if I can pick out the right one, because I said there's 2 articles here. Let me see. Okay. That's all right. Let's try this here. Page 13 first. All right. So we got the Packers whipped the Cardinals 14-0. Now here you go. It is here. It is right here. This is they're raising the flag, the American flag, but that's the Packers. That's their championship flag, champion banner, whatever you want to call it. They raised it there. Crowds cheers as the Packers championship pennant is raised. So that was the flag. Nice sunny day in Green Bay, which I can't say it's never sunny in Green Bay, but you'll notice here it's for September, it's rather comfortable. You give it another couple months and it starts getting pretty cold in Green Bay. Let me tell you what. All right, so here. All right. Llewellyn and Dillwig carry the ball over the line. 8,000-seat teams fight in opening National League battle. And this is after the first week here. The first week, shall I say, for Green Bay and the Cardinals. Apparently Newark already played 3 games. They lost all 3 games. Newark was not, the Tornadoes were not around in the league very long. So, and this is one of the reasons why, of many, that they were not very good. So, all right. So, it is too early to begin talking about another National League football pennant, but they did. They won 3 of them in a row for the Green Bay Packers. But it is going to be hard to convince approximately 8,000 fans who saw the Green Bay 11 turn back the Chicago Cardinals in the opening National League game of the season at City Stadium, 14-0, that the 1929 champions are not going to be near or on the top again this year. It may have been that the Packers were inspired at seeing the 1929 championship pennant raised on their flagpole before the game, as they went out and put on one of the best exhibitions of football ever seen here this early in the season. Cleverly mixing forward pass plays with line bucks and end runs, the Packers outplayed the Invaders in the last 3 quarters of the game. Good blocking and alertness, and try this again. Good blocking. All right, we're right here. Good blocking and alertness in following the ball were outstanding factors in their conquest. They had trouble solving the Cardinal double and triple pass plays in the opening quarter, but once they began breaking up the Invaders' formations, It did not take them long to begin getting the upper hand, and from the time they scored the first touchdown in the second period until the end of the game, the outcome was in little doubt. Overhead game was good. The Cardinals presented a better battle front than they had last year, but the Packers also looked stronger than in 1929, and therein lies the story. The overhead game of the Packers worked smothered than it did last Sunday and uncovered one of Green Bay's own youths, Arnold Herbert, as a passer who can rank with most of the ball heavers in the circuit. Yeah, Herbert was very, very good at throwing the football. The former West High star was on the throwing end of several passes, including one long heave that went into the arms of Lavi Dilweg and accounted for Green Bay's second touchdown. Defensively, the work of the Green Bay team left little to be desired. Michaelesque, I think maybe that's how you pronounce it, as usual, knifed his way into the opposing blockers to get the man with the ball time after time. So that's the end of this article here. So let me go, and we're going to go to the next page here. And this will, let's see where we at here. Okay, page 14. All right, here we go. This shows you the rest of the game here. Okay. Packers whipped the Cardinals by 14-0. While Hubbard, Haney, Bodine, and Darling also played great football. Johnny Blood again smashed his way into the hearts of fans by marvelous runs around ends and through the line, while Llewellyn and Melinda played great football as his running mates. The blocking of all the backs who saw action was fine. Use of double passes. Working double and triple pass plays together with cutback slashes off tackles and around the ends, the Cardinals began the game as if they were going to romp down for a touchdown. Mickey McDonald, one of the smallest men in professional football, but also one of the slipperiest, and Flanagan alternated in taking the ball and went into the Packer territory before the home team began to solve the plays. Bullet Baker, a former Packer player, gave fine interference to his teammates and helped in the advance. The Cardinals fumbled on 2 occasions in the first period when it looked like they were to get the upper hand. Llewellyn recovering the first fumble and Nash falling on the ball the second time it was mishandled. After an exchange of punts, Melinda intercepted a Cardinal pass and ran it back to the Packer 40-yard line. Blood got off to a great smash over right tackle, picking up 9 yards. Llewellyn then dashed around right end with some good interference and carried the ball 20 yards before he was downed. Llewellyn then picked up 8 yards through the line, and Melinda contributed a center smash to put the ball on the Cardinal 12-yard line as the first quarter ended. On the first play of the second period, Dunn picked up 2 yards at center. On the second play, Llewellyn dashed around right end, evading and pivoting away from 3 Cardinal men to slide over the goal for the first touchdown. Dunn kicked the ball squarely between the uprights for the extra point, giving the Packers a 7-0 advantage. The Packers worked the ball down to the Cardinal 29-yard line later in the period, but an intercepted pass halted the advance, and the invaders punted out of danger. A pass from Dunn to Blood, bringing the ball to the Cardinal 35-yard line, was completed just as the half ended. Dilweg goes over. So, his score was 7-0 at the half. Soon after the start of the second half, the Packers again went deep into Cardinal territory through some good runs by Blood and a poor punt by Boyd of the Cardinals. A pass over the goal line that was just missed by Blood, however, gave the ball to the Cardinals on the 20-yard line. The Cardinals then punted out to Herbert, who brought the ball to the midfield before he was downed. On the first play after the kick, Herbert dropped back to his own 43-yard line and heaved a 35-yard pass to Dilweg, who grabbed it out of the air, although he appeared to be covered, evaded one man by sidestepping, and it dashed over the goal line for the second touchdown of the game. Melinda place kick for the extra point, giving the Packers a 14-0 advantage. So Herbert ran the punt back to midfield. So on the first play after the kick, Herbert dropped back to his 43-yard line, heaved it 35 yards. So all in all, it was a 50-yard pass play. They scored from midfield. All right. And then we got after the story, a Cardinal fumble soon after the start of the fourth quarter that was recovered by Darling of the Cardinals on the Cardinal 28-yard line. Again, put the Packers in scoring position. A pass failed, and Melinda dropped back for a place kick. The ball was high enough, but wide of the goalposts. This is another one of the reasons, like when you read, not that this made any difference at all, but you look at look at the score is 14. Oh, okay, it was 14. Let's see. A pass failed, Melinda dropped back for a place kick. So they tried it. They tried a place kick from maybe 35 yards or so out, and it was could have been 17-0, but the ball was high enough. It was just wide of the post, so they missed the field goal time. The Cardinals were beyond the Packer line only once the entire game, and that 1 minute before the contest ended when Rooney took a long pass from Nevers and went to the 18-yard line before he was tackled by Blood. Another pass was incomplete as the game ended. But here's where the Green Bay Packers, especially when they have their home games, and the Green Bay Packers and other teams are different. Right here, you have play-by-play. It's not the case with most teams. Play-by-play, right? Mikulski kicked off to Flanagan, who made a nice 15-yard return to his own 30-yard line. There are a lot of misspelled words. A lot. There wasn't spell check back then. There wasn't spell check 95 years ago, right? So a lot of misspelled players' names. Okay, on a double pass reverse play, McDonald went around right end for 6 yards and then tried the same play for a gain of 5 yards at left end. Flanagan smashed over right guard for a 1-yard gain, and McDonald made a 1-yard gain at left guard. Flanagan made a yard at right guard, and Belden got off a punt which bounded and rolled out of bounds on the Packers' 10-yard line. Llewellyn made 3 yards off left tackle. Okay, so let's see here. And if you hear any snoring, shh, keep it down. That's my dog, Randy. He's snoring. He had a rough day. He actually had to get his nails cut today. That's a frustrating experience for him, let me tell you. All right, so then he got off. Let's see. Okay. Then he got off a 60-yard punt, which Belden fumbled when tackled by Raddick, and Llewellyn recovered on the Cardinals' 41-yard line. So the Packers got the ball on the Cardinals' 41. Llewellyn was thrown for a 2-yard loss when Kiesling broke through and spilled him. Llewellyn tried a pass to Engelman over the center of the line, which the latter tried to get, but the ball just grazed his fingertips. Another pass by the same combination was also incomplete and resulted in a 5-yard penalty. Whoops. He had 2 incomplete passes, or 2. It's either 2 or 2 in a row, and it's a 5-yard penalty to try to help deter, I guess, incomplete passes or deter them from throwing the football, which is, to me, is kind of crazy. But all right, where are we at here? All right. Whoops. Hold on here. Okay. So after the 5-yard penalty for the Packers, Llewellyn tried a punt, which was partially blocked by one of his own men, and the ball went to the Cardinals on their own 41-yard line. Baker carried the ball but fumbled, and Nash recovered for the Packers on the Cardinals' 42-yard line. Engelman made 3 yards at right end before going out of bounds. Llewellyn made 1 yard at right tackle before Kiesling downed him. On an attempted pass play, both teams were offsides. On the next play, the same thing happened when Melinda tried to carry the ball. Pass Llewellyn to Engelman was completed for a 20-yard gain, but the Packers were offside and took a 5-yard penalty as a result. Llewellyn tried a pass which Baker intercepted, but Radek downed him before he could advance a step. Flanagan made 7 yards at right guard, and McDonald added 3 at right tackle for a first down. McDonald made 9 yards at right guard, and Belden made 3 yards at right end, and McDonald went between the left tackle and end for 5 yards. Flanagan made 4 yards over left guard and then about 1.5 in the same place for a first down. McDonald lost 2 yards at right tackle. Belden was thrown for a 5-yard loss, which Mikulski broke through and tackled him. Blood went in for Engelman, and Dillwig went in for Radek. A pass Flanagan to Belden was incomplete. Belden punted out of bounds on the Packer 5-yard line. The ball taking another bad bound, Llewellyn lost 2 yards at right tackle and then punted. When Dillwig missed the tackle, Belden returned for 10 yards. Belden was thrown for a 1-yard loss by Hubbard. Melinda intercepted a pass and ran it back 5 yards to the Packers' 40-yard line. Blood raced around left end for 17 yards. Dunn replaced Herbert. Blood made 9 yards at right tackle. So you got the Cardinals on the advance here. But as we know, since they didn't score any points, obviously something happened where they didn't score. But they had the ball down deep in Green Bay territory. Let's see. Blood made 9 yards at right tackle, and Llewellyn, the Packers had the ball, and they were advancing. Made 4 in the same place, but the Packers were set back 5 yards for an offside. Llewellyn made 20 yards around right end with some good interference. Nevers went in for Flanagan, and Melinda added a yard at left tackle. Llewellyn made 4 yards in the same place and then added 4 at right guard, putting the ball on the 12-yard line as the first quarter came to an end. So this is where the Packers wound up scoring the first touchdown. Dunn made it a first down on the quarterback sneak. He made 2 yards after the 10-yard line. Llewellyn then dashed around right end for a touchdown, so it was a 10-yard touchdown run, evading and outrunning several Cardinals. Dunn booted a perfect place kick for the extra point, and the score stood at 7-0 for the Packers. Guy's name who I can't pronounce kicked off to Keneally, who returned it 15 yards to his own 32-yard line. McDonald was thrown by the same guy for a 2-yard loss. On a run from a punt formation, Belden made no gain at left end. Belden punted 40 yards to Dunn, who returned about 3 yards before being down. On a signal mix-up, no one was back to receive the pass from center, and the ball rolled back 10 yards before Melinda recovered. Blood made no gain on a wide end run. Gordon went in for Williams in the Cardinal lineup. Llewellyn punted, and Belden, after dropping the ball, picked it up and returned it about 10 yards. McDonald made 4 yards at left end. McDonald was hurt on the play, and C. Rooney took his place. Belden made no gain at right tackle. And then Nevers, let's go back up here. All right. Whew, my goodness. Nevers added 2 yards at right left guard. What the heck does that mean? Nevers added 2 yards at guard, at right left guard. I have no idea what right left guard is. I have no idea. Belden got off another punt, which went out of bounds on the Packer 3-yard line. Llewellyn punted, and Belden was down on his tracks on his own 37-yard line. Nevers failed to gain at right guard. A pass Nevers to Rooney was knocked down by Johnny Blood. A pass Nevers to Baker was incomplete for a 5-yard penalty. Belden punted out of bounds on the Packer 37-yard line. Perry went in for Hubbard when the Packers took a timeout. On the next play, Bodine was offside and the Packers took a 5-yard penalty. Melinda made 2 yards at right guard. Blood made no gain at right end, and Nevers was getting the tackle. Ernie Nevers got the tackle on that one. Llewellyn punted, and Tom Nash down the ball in midfield about 1 yard from the sideline. Melinda intercepted a pass on the Packer 48-yard line, and on the first play, the Packers got 5 yards for offsides. Blood made 6 yards on a cutback at right tackle. Haney went in for Slate, Earp for Darling in the Packer lineup, and Vesser went in for Castle in the Cards lineup. Deal took Bloomer's place, or Bloomer's place, I'll say. A pass, Blood to Dunn was incomplete. A pass, Blood to Llewellyn put the ball on the Cardinals' 29-yard line. On the next play, the Packers were offside for a 5-yard penalty. The next pass was intercepted on the Cardinals' 33-yard line. Boyd made 8 yards at right tackle, and Nevers made 4 yards at center. Boyd added 2 yards at right tackle. Rooney made 1 yard at right tackle, and a pass from Nevers to Boyd was incomplete. Boyd making a good try. Boyd punted, and Dunn returned 15 yards with the aid of fine blocking by Tom Nash. Packers took a 5-yard penalty for being offsides. Melinda made 3 yards at right guard. Blood made 15 yards around right end, going out of bounds when Boyd tackled him. Feelings, nothing more than feelings, went in for Williams, who was hurt. Melinda made 4 yards at right guard. A pass from Dunn to Blood completed as the half ended. So we got the start of the second half with the Packers leading 7-0. There were several substitutions were made by both teams as the teams resumed play. My main man here, I'm just going to call Michael. Michael kicked off to Rooney, who returned 10 yards. Rose made 3 yards at right tackle. Rooney made 1 yard at left tackle. Boyd punted a very poor kick, and Blood returned at 15 yards to the Cardinals' 45-yard line. Blood made 2 yards at right tackle and then dashed around left end for 12 yards. Fitzgibbons added a yard through the line, and on a right end run, Blood was held for no gain. On the next play, Johnny Blood tried to get off a pass with several men rushing him and threw it down the field to Dilwig, who just missed the ball. Herbert passed over the goal line, and the Cardinals took the ball on their own 20-yard line. So if a pass back then was thrown into the end zone and it was grounded or incomplete, it was a touchback. So you had to be, you're taking a big chance of throwing the ball into the end zone back then. Once again, I have no idea why they would do something like that, but I guess it was to discourage throwing the football. All right, so the Cardinals took the ball. Did it again. Oops, I'm sorry. I'm touching the screen here, and sometimes I wind up touching the wrong spot, and crazy things wind up happening. Okay, here we go. All right, the Cardinals took the ball on the 20-yard line. Rose made no gain at center, and Rooney no gain at left tackle. So basically, it looked like on third down, the Cardinals punted to Herbert, who returned it about 10 yards to midfield. Blood failed to gain, going out of bounds. Herbert dropped back and tossed a beautiful toss to Dilwig, which Lavey grabbed on the 20-yard line, and after evading one tackle, ran for a touchdown. So they got the punt here. Herbert ran it back to midfield, about 10 yards back to midfield. So on the first play, Blood failed to gain anything. So basically, the ball was still at midfield. Then on the next play, Herbert dropped back to pass and tossed a beautiful toss to Dilwig. which I guess his name is Lavi Dilwick, I guess, grabbed it on the 20-yard line. So I guess he dropped back to his own 43. So I guess he threw it about 37 yards in the air, which was caught at the 20. And then Lavi Dilwick ran it in the final 20 yards. So it was a 50-yard touchdown pass. Melinda placed kick for the extra point, and the score was Packers. Tell you a lot of errors. Packers 10, Cardinals nothing. It was 14-0. I'm not sure why they said 10, but my man Michael here kicked off to Papio, looks like, who returned to the 42-yard line. Boyd was stopped by my man Michael for no gain. A pass was incomplete. Boyd was stopped by, once again, Michael for a 4-yard loss. Boyd punted and Blood ran into Herber. The ball being fumbled, but recovered by Herber on the 15-yard line. Blood went 15 yards around right end, and Fitzgibbons made 5 yards in the same place. Blood would fumble, and the Cards recovered on the Packer 34-yard line. So the Cardinals got the ball on the Packers 34-yard line. They got a chance to get something on the board, but as we know, they got shut out. So something happened where they didn't wind up scoring, obviously, but they have a chance here. Rooney fumbled, and Haney recovered for the Packers. There you go. Blood followed. The Cardinals recovered on the Packer 34-yard line. So maybe on the very first play, Rooney got the ball, and he fumbled, and the Packers recovered it. So there you go. Herbert made no gain at right tackle. Melinda lost 1 yard when Deal broke through and tackled him. Herbert punted the ball going over the goal line. Rose made no gain at right end as the quarter ended. So heading into the fourth quarter, it was 14-0, the Green Bay Packers. Belden punted out of bounds in midfield, but the Packers were penalized 5 yards for being offside. Nevers made no gain at left guard. Nevers added 2 yards in the same place, and on a double pass, Belden fumbled and Darling recovered on the Cardinals' 28-yard line. Blood made no gain at right tackle. Melinda failed the game, and a pass Herbert to Blood was knocked down by Belden almost on the goal line. Melinda tried a place kick, which was wide of the goalposts. Belden was stopped by Beaudoin for no gain. The Cardinals got 5 yards for stalling. Got no gain on a wide end run, but the Cardinals took a 5-yard penalty for backs in motion. Belden was thrown by Beaudoin for a 1-yard loss. Beaudoin, who was hurt, and Wooden took his place. Blood took Belden's punt and stepped out of bounds with it on the Cardinal 33-yard line. Fitzgibbons made no gain at left end and then tried a pass which was incomplete. A pass Herbert to Blood was incomplete, and the 5-yard penalty was inflicted. Blood punted, and the ball went over the goal line. Belden failed the game, but the Cardinals took a 5-yard penalty for being offsides. Belden made 10 yards at right tackle. Where are we at here? Okay. Blood went in for Herbert. Nevers made 3 yards at right guard. Rooney lost 2 on a reverse play. Melinda knocked down a pass, and a pass was knocked around by several Cardinals before it was finally incomplete, and the Cardinals took another 5-yard setback penalty. Nevers punted, and Bloodgood returned it 10 yards to his own 45-yard line. McCreary went in for Melinda, Earp for Hubbard, Zuver for Darling, and Perry for Haney. Blood made 3 yards at left tackle. Blood made 5 yards in the same place. McCreary hit the line for 4 yards, but the Packers were in motion and suffered a 5-yard penalty. Blood cut back over left tackle for 10 yards and a first down. A pass Blood to Bloodgood made a 5-yard gain. Pass Blood to Nash was incomplete. A pass from Blood to Bloodgood was good for 12 yards and another first down. Fitzgibbons made no gain at left guard on a weak side play. Fitzgibbons made 5 yards at right tackle. Bloodgood was smeared before he could get the ball to McCreary on a fullback plunge. On an attempted pass, Blood was rushed, and he was thrown for a 15-yard loss, and the Packers lost the ball on downs. Raddick went in for Nash, and they passed by Nevers. A very long one was incomplete. Slate went in from my man Michael. On another pass, Nevers was tackled and tried to ground the ball, with the result that it took a 15-yard penalty. A pass Nevers to Rooney was completed, and Rooney was down on the Packer 18-yard line by blood. Another pass was incomplete as the game ended. So, right, we have some sidelights here. All right. Did it again. They got the first downs here. Packers had 9 first downs. The Cardinals had 8. Llewellyn averaged 56 yards on 5 punts. Herbert kicked one time for 70 yards. Cardinals punted a few times here. Belden averaged 42 yards on 6 punts. Boyd, 38 yards. Nevers. So the Cardinals punted. What was it? They punted 11 times. Passes. Packers completed 5 of 8, and 2 were intercepted for 102 yards. The Cardinals completed 1 pass for 65 yards. 8 were incomplete and 2 were intercepted. Penalties. The Packers had 10. Cardinals had 6. Packers 17 yards to a line on 17 plays. I'm not sure what the average 1 yard per play. 131 yards around ends on 21 plays, average 7 yards. So the Packers running north and south, trying to, I guess, right up through the line. They averaged a yard per game. Their best running was around the ends. Cardinals ran 48 yards to the line on 31 plays, average 1.5 yards per play. And they got 1 yard around end on 4 plays, averaging, like hardly anything. Individual average, Bloodgood, no gain on 1 play. Herbert, no gain on 1 play. No, I got to go through all of that. But the Legion Band and Color Guard figured in the first flag-raising ceremony preceding the game, and the big gold and blue banner proclaiming Green Bay 1929 champions was raised on the flagpole on the west end of the field. The pole was donated by the Green Bay Planing Mill Company. Packer and Cardinal teams stood at attention when the flag was raised. Several Cardinal fumbles were recovered by the Packers men in the course of the game. The Green Bay squad was guilty of only 1 fumble, one on the first play after the Cardinals got the ball. They also fumbled, and Haney recovered for the Packers. Path News cameramen were again present, taking pictures of the game. The film will be shown here in a short time. My man Michael played nearly the entire game with a broken finger suffered early in the first quarter. The injured member failed to stop him from smashing through the Cardinal front wall to break up plays, however. Jimmy Beaudoin went out of the game in the last quarter after he was butted in the nose by Cardinal halfback. X-ray pictures were to be taken to see if it was broken. Dr. David Jones, the Cardinal owner, was disappointed over the reversal. After the game, he remarked that he and the team came up here with intentions of winning by at least 2 touchdowns. He said that the Packers looked even better this year than they did last season. Howard Maple, All-American quarterback with the Cardinals this year, did not see any action as he was suffering a wrenched back sustained in the game at the Sturgis last Sunday. Although Ernie Nevers played nearly half the game, he also should have remained out. According to Dr. Jones, Nevers wrenched his hip last Sunday and could hardly lift his left leg. Herbert got off the longest punt of the game in the third period when he booted the ball from his own 30-yard line across the Cardinals' goal, a distance of about 70 yards. So, even back then, they could punt the ball. Is there anything a little bit more? Nope. Pretty much about it. But I mean, they could punt the ball back then. Bad. Oops. They had bowls and all and everything. It's they can put the ball back then. So that's kind of the uncommon thing, meaning showing what the Green Bay Packer Green Bay Press Gazette showed in their the news article play by play, and they had all kinds of descriptions of the game. A lot of teams don't have that. So it's a lot of teams. The descriptions of the game are not that good. But they're talking about the Green Bay here. As I said, it's a home game, and Green Bay, their fans love their football team. The Packers had very good coverage as far as with the newspaper articles, as you can see there, and they came out on top, 14-0, and just early in the season they went on, they're up 1-1, lost none at the top of the division, and they'll probably be there obviously all year long as they're on their way to winning their second consecutive National Football League title. Well, so that's how it was on this day, September 21st, 1930, between the Chicago Cardinals and the Green Bay Packers on pro football, the first 50 years. So I'll see you next time.